What if that nagging feeling in the back of your neck was real? What if those hands reaching out from the dark that you believed were there were there? What if the monster in the basement really existed? And what if there was really something under the bed? Would you have the courage to face your fears?
Hello, brave souls. Tonight's story is called I Went to a Zombie-Themed Role-Playing Event, and I'm Not Sure If I'm Still Playing. Written by AceMac001 from r/NoSleep. Hey guys, I need your advice. Something happened to me last night, and I'm not sure whether it's my imagination or if someone is fucking with me. Anyway, the thing is, I'm part of this live-action zombie survival group. It's not LARPing. I'm not one of those guys. We do take on a role, and there is a live-action element. There are no goblins or elves or any of that shit. We have flesh-eating zombies instead, and people take it really seriously. People spend weeks pulling their zombie costumes together. We have zombie babies bursting out of pregnant women and all sorts. It's nuts. Looks mad realistic too. We get told in advance if we'll start as a zombie or a survivor, as obviously, costumes need to be made, which people put a hell of a lot of work into. Even if you're a survivor, you need a zombie costume ready to go. You could get cornered at any time and end up becoming a zombie yourself. It's awesome, because not only is it fun, the game is a real challenge, and well, you never know when you'll have to survive a zombie apocalypse for real. Keeps you fit too. It's tricky to move fast and all that makeup while maintaining a convincing shamble. Occasionally, we'll hold our meetups somewhere public, shopping malls or colleges, and freak out the normies. But we usually get together at abandoned buildings. It's less hassle and provides a nicely apocalyptic atmosphere. Anyway, on this occasion, I get the email, and the meetup is at this old abandoned sewage facility. Sounds pretty cool, and to top things off, I'm a designated survivor, which means the role is a bit meatier than just a zombie, and I get to dress up like Bruce Campbell. Double bonus. So, they set the date for the last night. This place is not too far from where I live, but I had to work, so I'm a little late. I was expecting to see zombies milling around everywhere, but when I arrive, there's not a soul in sight. This place is seriously cool, though. Huge circular tanks that I guess they must have used for filtering all the crap that comes down the sewer cover much of the site. This place has been abandoned for years, though. They aren't full of shit now. Either someone cleared it away when the place closed down, or it's evaporated over the years. A couple of them are filled with stagnant water, though most are just sitting empty. No zombs in any of them, though, so I figure everyone must be inside the main facility. It's like a huge brick warehouse. There's a big open doorway that leads inside the building to a vehicle bay. It would have been used to drive trucks inside at one point. I decided to look around for another door. Going through a big entranceway like that, I'd be a sitting duck for the horde. I go around the corner and, sure enough, there's an annex with an old wooden door. It's open a crack, but thick with ivy that's grown up around it and kind of wedged in place, so I have to force it. The door shutters open wide enough for me to slip through. It's kind of noisy, so I freeze for a moment and listen to make sure I don't hear anyone shuffling in my direction. When I'm confident I'm in the clear, I move inside and find myself in an old office space. It looks like someone has torn the place apart. Chairs and desks smashed in pieces all over the floor. The windows are black with mold. It doesn't look like anyone's been here in years, which is good. It means I've got inside the facility without alerting the undead. There's an internal door, which I guess opens into the room with the vehicle bay. I don't expect the room to be zombie-free, so, moving like a ninja cat, I ease the door open a crack and peek inside. It's an enormous open space. Metal walkways line the walls, and in the center I can see a huge opening in the floor. A rusty iron staircase leads down inside it to what must be the subfloors. In the center of the opening, pipework emerges from the lower levels, presumably leading to the big water tanks I saw outside. It's still all quiet though, and definitely no zombies to be seen on the walkways, so I decided that the only option is to head down to the subfloors. That must be where all the action is. The staircase is in a horrific state, but I figure, what the hell? It's pretty typical for the buildings to be used to be in poor state of repair and nobody has gotten hurt so far. That said, as soon as I set foot on it, the staircase swings back and forth. Some of the iron supports must have rusted through, so in retrospect, it probably wasn't the best idea. Anyway, I get myself all the way to the lowest subfloor without the thing collapsing and step onto solid ground, slightly relieved. I can't see anyone moving on the subfloor either. At this point, I'm questioning whether I've mixed up my days, but for the first time, I hear something, a knocking on the pipes. I decide to follow the sound. Obviously, as a survivor, that may seem like a bad idea. I need to avoid the zombies. But I don't feel like I'm part of the game yet, and there's always that chance it could be another survivor. I listen carefully and the sound seems to be coming from one particular pipe. A red painted metal one, away from the main opening. The subfloors are pitch black, so I flick on my trusty headlamp and follow along a dark corridor and through a doorway that opens up into another room. This one has clusters of pipework around the walls and ceiling. There are these wheels and valve type things in the pipes, so I guess this would have been the pump room. From behind me, something clangs to the floor, so I spin around and my headlamp illuminates a dark figure shuffling and moaning along the corridor behind me. I stumble back, shocked, but the moment of panic gives way to excitement. The game is on, I think. I pick myself up and scramble away just as the zombie lurches at me. I dash for an opening across the room which leads to another corridor. I hurtle down it and pick a random door. This room was full of old wooden benches and broken tooling equipment, so I guess it must have been some kind of repair station or engineering room. I flash the light around and something lurches from behind a bench. Half its face is missing. Its exposed jaw gnashes at me. Awesome makeup, I think to myself. I turn to head back down the way I came. But before I have a chance, the first zombie blocks the door. I get a better view of him this time and can see he's a beefy guy, with his shirt ripped open and a gaping wound in his chest. He glares at me with dead eyes, and I circle around to the other side of the room, looking for another way out. I spot a door in one corner and head over to it and yank it open. These fucking gnarly hands come reaching in for my throat and send me tripping backwards. I reach out to stop myself falling and grab hold of something on the front of its shirt, but the thing comes away in my hand and I hit the deck, sprawling on the filthy ground. Standing over me is a female security guard with one eyeball dangling from its socket and blood dripping from her mouth. I look at my hand and realize I've grabbed her ID badge, so I just shove it in my pocket. She won't be needing that anymore, and it'd make a nice keepsake to remember the game. I glance behind her and I realize this fucking chick was hiding in a store cupboard. A smart move, but now I know I'm trapped. The zombie Hulk is blocking the doorway, and the other two are bearing down on me while I'm scooting backwards on my ass, trying to think of something. I try to stand up, but I haven't realized I've scooted under a workbench. I crack my head against the underside, which hurts like fuck and makes me dizzy for a moment. Worse than that, my headlamp gets knocked loose and clatters to the ground, spilling batteries on the damp floor. I'm now left sitting underground in a pitch-dark sewer with 3 zombies waiting to devour my liver. It's a genuinely scary moment, but this is the bit where things get really fucking weird. As I'm scrabbling away in the muck for my batteries, I sense this kind of charge coming into the air, kind of like feeling you get before a big thunderstorm. There's a strange flicker of light and a buzzing sound, like electricity, and then suddenly, it's dark again, and the room is dead silent. The zombies have stopped moaning and I can't hear them shuffling around. I try again to find my batteries and I get my hands on a couple of them, but I'm still missing one. I'm thinking I'm going to have to call for help. That's not something you want to do as it breaks the immersion of the game, but if I can't find the battery, I'm fucked. While I'm thinking, footsteps come down my way of the corridor. I decide to wait and see how this plays out, so I hold still and keep quiet. A light sweeps into the room, and someone enters and walks toward me. They get close to my bench, and then there's a burning pain in my retinas as they shine their fucking flashlight right in my eyes. "Looking for this?" a female voice says, placing my spare batteries in my hand. "Are you a survivor?" I say, feeling a little brain dead. "Lucky for you," she says, as I fumble the final battery back into my headlamp. "If I'd been a zom, you'd be getting a sudden craving for the taste of human flesh about now." "Right," I say, crawling unceremoniously out from under my bench. That's the strange thing. There were 3 of them in here when I dropped my batteries, but then there was this noise and light and they all disappeared. Lured away by another survivor? She says, and I can't think of a better explanation. I guess, I say. You seen much action? She claims she hasn't seen a thing, before mocking me for hiding under a table. Why did you take part in this if you're such a pussy? She asked me casually, like there's an okay thing to say to somebody. I explained to her I'm not a pussy. I'm actually a pretty seasoned campaigner, both as a zombie and survivor, but this girl just laughs and says she couldn't see me lasting through the first night in a real apocalypse, which really gets my back up. She just caught me at a bad moment. I considered telling her we should go on separate ways, but I'm kind of creeped out now, so say nothing and follow her out the room. We explore a few more side rooms, but there isn't much to see. There's no sign of the zombies. It's like the action has moved on somewhere else. This place is vast. I'm thinking whoever picked the location is screwed up and found somewhere that's too big to have a decent game, despite the post-apocalyptic ambiance. But then the girl, Laverna, she said her name was, hears this faint humming noise. If we'd been anywhere else, we'd never have noticed it, but in the darkness your senses become more attuned. Not to mention the silence down there was almost painful. Anything aside from the dripping of dirty water was going to stand out. Anyway, we find a cable and it's buzzing as if an electric charge is going through it. Like I say, this place has been left derelict for years. Decades probably. So for there to be power seemed distinctly odd. We follow the cable and it leads us through another series of corridors until we come to a heavy wooden door. It's in notably better condition than the other doors we've seen and is closed. It seems this room could hold a clue to unlocking the entire game. In our games, it's pretty common to find clues that can help the survivors to win, but this seems a particularly nice touch. I try the handle, and it's locked. Laverna says these old locks weren't up to much. She thinks she can pick the lock, but then I notice a modern card reader next to the door. I tell her she'd have to be a genius-level locksmith to pick that. I'm thinking the trail has gone dead, but then I remember something. I root around in my pocket, pull out the ID card I got from the security zombie, and touch it to the card reader. Nothing happens. Laverna rolls her eyes and I aim a series of heavy kicks at the lock. I'm pleasantly surprised when the old frame splinters and the door swings off its hinges. I flash a wink at Laverna. Even in the gloom of the underground corridor, she can't miss it, but she ignores it anyway. I push the door open, and the room is filled with monitors. It's some kind of control room. There's an entire wall of security footage. It's got the whole facility covered. I'm pretty sure this is going to reveal the location of the main horde, as well as the other survivors. Once we find them, we can all hook up and escape. It's the big clue we've been searching for. I scan the monitors, but there's nothing. The facility is empty. I wonder whether there could have been a really poor turnout this time, but we usually get hundreds of people taking part, so it doesn't add up. I check again and a flicker of movement on a screen in the bottom left corner catches my eye. We take a closer look and sure enough, it's the main horde. They're all packed into one room, and I mean packed. The horde is one seething mass of mindless, flesh-eating monstrosities. They're jammed in so tight they're all right on top of one another. It's like the front row of a Justin Bieber concert and it looks dangerous to me. Someone could get seriously hurt in there. As I'm saying this to Laverna, the screens all blink off, casting the room into darkness, and then a message appears. You wanted the game? Now it's playtime. The message vanishes, and the monitor flickers back to show the horde. There's a loud buzz and a diabolical laugh sounds from somewhere. A heavy click echoes through the corridors, and on the screens we see the horde come boiling out of their room like someone kicked over an ant's nest. That's when they hear them. Their angry screams and snarls come out of the darkness. It's pretty normal for our zombies to do a bit of snarling, but this is something else. I'd never heard them make a noise like this. It's inhuman and it's coming towards us, fast. We both turn and run. There's a door along the corridor to our left and Laverna kicks it open. We tumble through and find ourselves on a raised platform with a guardrail. I look over the edge and it's just a short drop to a brick floor below. I realize that it's an inspection platform for the main sewer. It's a huge brick tunnel that curves off in both directions. We can hear the horde getting closer behind us, so we leap over the railing and take off down the tunnel. picking a direction at random. The old sewer tunnel is majestic, almost cathedral-like, but I don't have time to appreciate the engineering. My heart is beating outside my chest as we pound along it, trying to put some distance between ourselves and the zombies. They rarely move so fast, but they're somehow closing in. I find myself facing the reality that maybe we aren't playing a game anymore. Laverna spots a side tunnel and we decide to hide. We can't just keep running forever after all. The side tunnel opens into a large open chamber. It stinks in here, and I wonder whether they forgot to clear this part out when they closed the facility. Above us, a small tunnel opens in the chamber, possibly an old storm drain. It's the only way out, but it's about 8 feet off the floor. I'm pretty tall, but I can't quite reach, and Laverna has no chance. She's kind of tiny despite her big mouth. So I boost her up and then run about looking for something to stand on so I can follow her. I find a broken piece of pipe and start dragging it over, but it's too late. The zombies are right outside the chamber. I duck back into an alcove and they stream past me into the chamber, teeth snapping and hands clawing at the air. Thankfully, Laverna hollers at them and they rush at her, furiously climbing over one another to get to her, but she's too high for them. They climb over each other in their desperation to reach her as she takes off along the raised tunnel. I can see a way out for me, but then I get an idea. I've got my zombie costume tucked in my inside pocket. It doesn't come close to matching these guys, just a mass of snarling lips, rotting teeth, and bulbous eyes. But in the darkness, it might just work. I have to weave my way through the zombies who have been struggling at the back, and they let me pass at first. But then one of them must have noticed something off about the way I was moving and the thing that starts screeching and grabbing at me. 100 rotting heads swivel in my direction, and I burst back into the main tunnel. Clammy hands reaching for me as I tear past. I slap them away, tripping and falling into the stinking trickle of sewage. I scramble to my feet and take off, running faster than I ever have in my life. I spring myself up to the platform and through the door into the main facility, following the pipes back down the corridor at the pump room and the 2 open space where I'd climbed down to the sublevels. The sun has gone down since I went underground, but I'm so used to the dark that emerging to the dust it seems almost like daylight. A surge of relief floods through me, but then I see the staircase. What had been a teetering death trap on the way down had collapsed into a pile of rusted iron. I realize I'm royally screwed. I grab one of the least rusted bits of handrail from the collapsed staircase and break it off to use as a weapon. I'm thinking I'll take a few of these undead bastards with me. They explode up the corridors, and I brandish my handrail at them. They don't even pause before they rush me, but a shout from above makes me look up. Laverna is there, and she kicks down a bundle of ivy that hangs low enough for me to jump and grab it. I haul myself up, and she makes some comment about me looking like her grandmother trying to get upstairs before we take a break from this facility entrance. I've left my e-scooter outside, so I fire it up. She jumps on behind me and we take off while the slobbering horde spills into the street behind us. This was the last night, and I haven't slept a wink since. I keep looking out my window, wonder if I'm going to see zombies making their way down my street. The thing is, I still don't know if actual zombies have just tried to rip me to pieces, or if I've just taken part in the most intense roleplay I've ever experienced. I've tried texting a few of my buddies from the group, but no response. I've had one message though. It's from an anonymous number and just reads, "Ready to play some more? I'm fucking freaking out here. What do you guys think?" Our next story is just called Zombies by Reckless Rev 1125 on r/short scary stories. We decided to hide in an abandoned housing project, and we'd set up a small camp on one of the upper floors. Claire would go to the roof and with a telescope she found in one of the apartments and return with reports of the front lines. The army had mounted a rescue offensive and were pushing into the city. "How does it look?" I asked. She shook her head. "Terrible. It's a slaughter. We're not going to make it." Cabot sighed. "How bad?" "We're just overwhelmed. There's hundreds of them. Thousands. And worst, they really seem to enjoy killing. Some of them are covered in blood and gore, and I think they might actually be laughing." "What do we do?" Emma asked. "Do we stay here? Do Do we run? We can't run, Cabot said. We'd never make it. We're just not fast enough with Steve's hurt leg. I felt embarrassed. It didn't hurt anymore. But he was right. I wasn't fast. Let's go to the front lines, Tex said. Help out. Us? Cabot asked with surprise. Help out? Yeah, Tex insisted. Every little bit counts. No, Cabot said. We stay. I think we should go, Tex said. No, Cabot repeated. We stay. Who elected you leader? Tex asked. Cabot raised a pointed finger. I've just about had it with you, he said. Get your finger out of my face, Tex demanded. Cabot ignored him and continued to point. You want to go to the front lines? Go. We're staying here. Get your finger out of my face, Tex said again. Cabot still pointed. You think you're some kind of soldier, do you? Then go. We won't miss you. I told you, Tex said, to get your finger out of my face. He swatted at Cabot's hand. There was a sickening, crunchy tearing sound. Cabot's arm separated at the elbow and dropped to the floor. Cabot stood for a moment in shock, staring at the lost limb. All of us stared. An uncomfortably quiet ensued. Hey, Tex offered finally, quietly and apologetically. I'm really sorry, dude. Cabot bent down and picked the arm up by the wrist. God damn it, he hissed angrily. He examined the end for a moment but knew there was no reattaching it. I can't fucking believe this. He threw the arm into a nearby trash bin. Being a zombie sucks, he announced to no one in particular. A single green tear rolled down his rotting cheek. There was a tense, uncomfortable agreement. It did suck being a zombie, and we were not only relatively new at it, we were surprisingly not very good zombies. It wouldn't be long before my leg dropped off like Cabot's arm, and I'd only been dead a week. The gunshot seemed closer now. We knew we had no chance when the living finally came for us. Our last story is called The Thing About Zombie Movies Is, written by Queen of Scots, from r/short scary stories. Henry never understood why characters in zombie movies always ran, so frantically, from zombie hordes. He guessed one automatically kicked into survival mode, but it would be easier to succumb, wouldn't it? Especially if, as in World War Z or 28 Days Later, the transformation was quick, and then one was a zombie and nothing to fear. Henry's girlfriend Mia loved zombie movies. She'd shriek and grab his arm, pressing so close he could feel her heart racing, but she'd push away in annoyance when Henry scoffed. Why run? I just let him bite me and join him. That's the thing about zombie movies. There's an easy out and nobody takes it. There's a lot you don't know about zombies, asshole. Mia rolled her eyes. You do better to run. I'd just let you run, babe, Henry teased. I'd stay and be a zombie. When the first reports of necrosis hit the news, Mia was terrified, but Henry still scoffed. They're slow. A baby could outrun them. They won't stop, though, even when you cut their heads off, Mia fretted, and it's spreading fast. When Necrosis B came along, a month later, Henry still scoffed. No sense trying to run. These bitches got too much speed now. They're right in our country now, though, Mia panicked. She was haphazardly stuffing food and clothes into a backpack, while Henry chuckled and teased. Stay here and get killed if you want. She bolted out the door. Henry didn't scoff the next time he saw Mia. She came lurching at him through the backyard, where he'd been trying to pick up a cell signal. The whole damn internet seemed to be down, and he looked up in surprise to see her bloody face, cheek raggedly torn open, teeth gnashing eagerly as he fell on her, and bit hard on his collarbone. And that was when Henry learned why people ran in zombie movies. The pain was searingly hot, shooting through his whole body. He felt his brain pulsing, changing, pushing everything that he had been Henry out, and a stranger, furiously hungry, taking over. His eyes felt like they had been going to explode. His muscles cramped, convulsed, and forced his limbs forward. It was agony. And he was aware. The virus took over most of his brain, but Henry was left to feel it. and be horrified at what he was. He looked over at what, just a week ago, had been Mia, and saw that she knew, too, what was happening to her, to both of them. He hadn't thought that one would be aware that one was a zombie, aware of being trapped, powerless, in one's own body. He hoped what was left of his part of his brain died, before he started to rot, and felt it. Now he understood why people ran in zombie movies. It was just too late to do anything about it. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the stories. And remember to always face your fears.